Captain Park gazed out at the distant stars from the bridge of the HSS Nemesis. The lights were dim, keeping everyone alert, but helping them avoid detection. As the most advanced human warship ever built, the Nemesis was humanity's last hope. 6 months ago, the Terran Empire had launched a surprise attack on Earth's outer colonies. Within weeks, they had destroyed most of the human fleet. Now Earth stood alone, surrounded by Terran warships, with only scattered resistance across former human space. Status report, Park commanded, her voice steady despite the enormous pressure resting on her shoulders. At 42, she had spent over 20 years in the fleet, but nothing had prepared her for this, being the captain of the last functioning military vessel Earth had left. Lieutenant Kim looked up from his console, his young face illuminated by blue light. Stealth systems operating at maximum capacity. We're currently undetected, Captain. Park nodded, trying not to show her relief. The Nemesis had a special advantage, experimental technology that made it nearly invisible to Terran sensors. That, and the weapon that might save humanity. Engineering report, please, she said. Chief Engineer Ba's voice came through the comm system. The quantum cascade array is stable, Captain. Power levels at 97%. All systems green. The quantum cascade array, even the name was classified until recently. Developed in secret by Earth's best scientists, it was a weapon unlike any other, not designed to destroy ships or planets, but to target the Terran's unique technology itself. If it worked, it would be the perfect countermeasure against an enemy that had overwhelming force. If it worked, that was the problem. The array had never been tested in real combat conditions. Park turned to her second-in-command, Commander Joe. How long until we reach Terran space? Approximately 18 hours at current speed, Captain, Joe replied. His normally cheerful face was serious now. Navigation has plotted the safest route through their outer defenses. Park stood up and walked to the large view screen. The stars looked the same here as they did near Earth, though she knew they were already deep in what had once been human-controlled space. This is a suicide mission, Medical Officer Yang had said during their last briefing. You all know that, right? No one had disagreed. Their orders were simple yet nearly impossible. Take the Nemesis deep into enemy territory, reach the Terran homeworld, and deploy the array against their central command systems. Captain, called Communications Officer Lee. I'm picking up a transmission from nearby. Terran patrol ships communicating with each other. The bridge fell silent. Can they detect us? Park asked. Negative, Kim replied after checking his readings. Their sensors show no sign of lock. They're just routine communications. Park felt her shoulders relax slightly. Keep monitoring. Let me know if anything changes. She walked around the bridge, stopping to look at each station. The crew was young. Many of the veteran officers had died in the early attacks, but they were the best Earth had left, chosen specifically for this mission. Captain, said Tactical Officer Yoon, I've been analyzing Terran fleet movements based on our latest intelligence. They've increased patrols in the Dendura sector. That's not on our planned route, Joe noted. No, but it suggests they may be expecting something, Yoon replied. They've diverted significant forces there. Park considered this information. Good. That means fewer ships where we're actually going. The mission was the definition of high risk. Earth's scientists had discovered that the Terran Empire's entire military infrastructure operated on a centralized system. Their ships, their weapons, even their battle strategies were all connected to a single control hub on their homeworld. It was efficient, but had one critical vulnerability. If that hub could be disrupted, their entire military might collapse. The quantum cascade array was designed to exploit exactly that weakness. At the rear of the bridge, Science Officer Moon was reviewing data on her tablet. Captain, I've completed my analysis of the array's potential effectiveness. Based on everything we know about Terran technology, I estimate an 83% chance of success if we can deploy within optimal range. And if we can't get optimal range, Park asked. Moon hesitated. The effectiveness drops significantly. Below 50 meters from the target, it might not work at all. Park nodded. Their mission required not just reaching the Taran homeworld, but getting close enough to their central command center to deploy the array effectively. Captain, meal rotation in 30 minutes, announced Joe. You should eat something. Park almost smiled. Joe was always concerned about the crew's well-being, especially hers. I'll eat later. First, I want to review the latest intelligence from our hidden bases. The war had gone badly from the start. The Terran Empire had superior numbers, superior technology, and a ruthless determination to expand their territory. What they hadn't expected was human resourcefulness. As Park sat at her private console, she brought up images of Earth, cities under shields, people living in underground shelters, the last patches of resistance holding out against overwhelming odds. The Taran blockade prevented all ships from leaving or entering Earth's atmosphere. Food was scarce. Medicine was running out. The Nemesis was Plan Z, the last option when all others had failed. There was a soft beep on her console, a message from engineering. She opened it to find updated calculations from Bai on the array's power consumption. They would have one shot, maybe two if they were lucky, to activate the weapon once they reached their target. Navigation to Captain, came a voice over the comm. We've detected a gravity anomaly ahead. Possible Taran minefield. Park stood up. Reroute. Keep us at maximum stealth. As she returned to the bridge, she looked at the faces of her crew. They were tired, scared, but determined. They all knew what was at stake. With Earth under blockade and colonies in ruins, Captain Park led her crew of specialists on what appeared to be a suicide mission. Penetrate the heart of Terran space and strike at the Empire's nerve center. The fate of humanity rested on their success. New course plotted, Captain, Navigation Officer Kang announced. ETA to Taran space now 20 hours. Proceed, Park ordered, settling back into her command chair. The mission had begun, and there was no turning back. The HSS Nemesis glided silently through the darkness of space, its advanced stealth systems making it nearly invisible against the backdrop of stars. They had crossed the border into Taran Empire territory 6 hours ago. So far, they had avoided detection by 3 border patrol vessels and a major fleet checkpoint. Captain Park stood in the ship's tactical room, studying the 3-dimensional holographic display that showed their current position relative to Taran Prime. Lieutenant Choi, her tactical officer, worked the controls to zoom in on the Imperial capital. Our latest intelligence package came from resistance operatives who infiltrated a Taran military installation. Choi explained, his fingers moving through the hologram to highlight key structures. We've confirmed what we suspected all along. The hologram shifted to show a tall spire at the center of the capital city. Their entire fleet operation runs through a quantum communications hub on their throne world of Taran Prime. Choi explained, pointing to the structure. It's their strength and their weakness. Park leaned closer, examining the building. What kind of defenses are we looking at? Heavy, planetary shields, orbital defense platforms, and at least 3 battle groups stationed in orbit at all times, Choi replied. But the Resistance provided us with shield frequencies and patrol schedules. There's a small window where we might slip through their defenses if we time it perfectly. The humans had discovered a critical vulnerability. The Taran military operated on a rigid hierarchical network that, if disrupted at its source, would cripple their forces across the galaxy. It was the reason for this desperate mission in the first place. How confident are we in this intelligence? Park asked. The operatives who gathered it died getting it to us, Choi said quietly. They believed in it enough to sacrifice themselves. Park nodded solemnly. The Resistance was made up of brave people from all the worlds conquered by the Taran. Humans fought alongside other species, united by their hatred of the Empire. Many had paid the ultimate price to give the Nemesis this chance. Captain to bridge, she said into her communicator. Set course for approach vector 7. Maintain maximum stealth. As they left the tactical room, Commander Joe met them in the corridor. The crew is anxious, Joe reported. Word has spread that we're in Imperial territory now. Let them be anxious, Park said. It will keep them sharp, but remind them what we're fighting for. If we succeed, we liberate not just Earth, but hundreds of worlds. Joe nodded and headed off to speak with the crew. Park made her way to the bridge, where the main view screen showed the distant glow of Taran Prime's star system. They were still 3 hours away at their current speed. Status report, Park ordered as she took her command chair. All systems nominal, Captain, responded Officer Kim. Stealth systems operating at 98% efficiency. Science Officer Moon added, we're detecting heavy communication traffic ahead. The Taran fleet is very active in this sector. Park considered this information. High fleet activity could make their approach more difficult, but it might also provide more background noise to hide their presence. Show me the patrol patterns, she ordered. A tactical display appeared, showing the movements of Taran warships throughout the system. They moved with precision, following exact patterns at exact times. The Taran were nothing if not methodical. Their predictability is another weakness, Lieutenant Choi observed. Once you understand their patterns, you can find the gaps. For the next hour, they watched and analyzed, looking for the perfect approach vector. The quantum cascade array required them to get relatively close to the communications hub on the planet's surface. That meant penetrating the orbital defenses and the planetary shield. I think I found our window, Choi finally announced. There's a scheduled maintenance cycle on the eastern shield grid in approximately 90 minutes. It only lasts for 3 minutes, but during that time, there's a vulnerability we could exploit. Park nodded. Navigator, can you get us there in time? Yes, Captain. But we'll need to increase speed, which might make us more detectable. It was a calculated risk. Park weighed the options and made her decision. Proceed. Get us there. The Nemesis adjusted course and increased speed, heading directly for the Taran homeworld. As they approached the outer defense perimeter, tension on the bridge increased. Every officer focused intently on their stations, knowing that a single mistake could mean their destruction. They successfully navigated past the first line of defense ships, using a debris field from an old battle to mask their approach. The second line proved more challenging, requiring them to power down non-essential systems and drift through at minimal power. As they neared the final approach to Taran Prime, Engineer Lee's voice came urgently over the comm system. Captain, we have a problem. A patrol has detected our gravity signature. The bridge fell silent. Park's expression remained calm despite the surge of adrenaline. Years of command experience had taught her that showing panic would only spread it to the crew. Battle stations, she ordered firmly. Tactical, show me the patrol that detected us. The view screen shifted to show a small Taran patrol vessel changing course to investigate their position. They haven't sent an alert yet, Communications Officer Lee reported. They appear to be investigating before reporting. That gives us a chance, Park said. Options. Tactical Officer Choi responded immediately. We could fire a precision shot to disable their communications before they report, but that would confirm our presence to any other nearby vessels. Navigator Kang offered another suggestion. There's a dense asteroid cluster nearby. If we can reach it before they get a visual confirmation, we might lose them. Park considered both options. Neither was ideal. Third option, she said. We use a focused electromagnetic pulse to temporarily disable their sensors. They'll think it was a natural phenomenon from the nearby star. That could work, Engineer Lee said over the comm. But we'd need to modify our defensive array to emit the correct frequency. It would take a few minutes. Do it, Park ordered. Helm, bring us about and prepare to execute a controlled bursting maneuver toward that patrol ship on my mark. We need to get close enough for the EMP to be effective. The next few minutes were a carefully orchestrated dance. The Nemesis adjusted position, staying just out of visual range of the patrol ship, while Engineer Lee and his team reconfigured the defensive systems. "Modifications complete," Captain Lee reported. "EMP ready to deploy, but we'll need to be within 5,000 kilometers for maximum effectiveness. Navigator, bring us in. Tactical, be ready to fire conventional weapons if this fails." The Nemesis moved closer to the unsuspecting patrol ship, which was still scanning the area where they had detected the anomaly. "In range in 3, 2, 1. Mark," called Navigator Kang. "Deploy EMP," Park ordered. A silent, invisible pulse erupted from the Nemesis, washing over the Taran patrol vessel. Immediately, its lights flickered and went out. "Direct hit," Choi confirmed. "Their systems are offline. Estimated recovery time is 8 minutes. Long enough," Park said. "Resume course to Taran Prime, maximum speed. We need to reach that shield gap before they recover and sound the alarm." As they raced toward the planet, Park knew they had just used up some of their limited luck. The mission was growing more dangerous by the minute, but they were now too close to turn back. The humans had penetrated deep into enemy territory, and their target was now in sight. Alarms blared throughout the HSS Nemesis as the ship rocketed toward Taran Prime. The disabled patrol vessel had recovered faster than expected and sent out an alert. Now every Taran ship in the vicinity was converging on their position. 6 warships approaching from Sector 4, Lieutenant Choi announced, his voice tense but controlled. 2 more from Sector 7. Estimated intercept in 3 minutes. Captain Park gripped the arms of her command chair, mind racing through possible escape routes. None looked promising. "We're too close to turn back now," she said firmly. "Navigation, plot a course through the Hadrian asteroid field." Navigator Kang looked up in surprise. "Captain, that field is extremely dense. The risk of collision is higher than the risk of being destroyed by those warships," Park finished. "The asteroids will provide cover and might slow down our pursuers." The navigator nodded and began plotting the dangerous course. "All hands, brace for evasive maneuvers," Commander Joe announced shipwide. "Medical teams, stand by for potential casualties." The Nemesis veered sharply as the first Taran energy beams sliced through space where they had been moments before. The ship shuddered as its engines strained to deliver maximum speed. "Entering asteroid field now," Kang reported. Massive rocks and ice chunks filled the view screen, some as small as shuttles, others larger than the Nemesis itself. The ship wove between them, the hull groaning under the stress of rapid direction changes. A massive explosion rocked the bridge as a Taran energy beam struck their rear shields. "Direct hit to aft shields," the defensive systems officer shouted. "Shield integrity at 65%. Another blast struck nearby, destroying an asteroid and sending deadly fragments spinning toward them. The ship lurched to avoid the largest pieces, but smaller chunks peppered the hull like bullets. 2 Taran warships have followed us into the field," Choi reported. "The others are moving to block our exit vectors." Park nodded grimly. "Keep going. Push the engines to maximum." The Nemesis continued its desperate flight through the asteroid field, taking hits from both pursuing ships and collision damage from unavoidable asteroid fragments. A tremendous crash echoed through the ship, followed by the screech of tearing metal. Chief Engineer Kang's panicked voice came over the comm. "Engineering to bridge. We've sustained significant damage to Engine 3. Coolant leak detected." "Can you contain it?" Park asked. "Working on it, but we're running hot. The engine core is overheating. We can maintain current speed for 10 minutes, maybe less." Park turned to tactical. "How far to firing range of Taran Prime?" "Approximately 9 minutes at current speed," Choi replied, understanding her intention immediately. "Then we have one chance. Navigation, plot the most direct course out of this field toward the target." The Nemesis burst from the asteroid field, engines glowing dangerously bright as they pushed beyond safe limits. 3 Taran warships immediately opened fire, their energy beams converging on the human vessel. The ship rocked violently as hit after hit struck their weakening shields. "Shields at 40% and falling," reported Officer Han. "Deploy countermeasures," Park ordered. From launch tubes along the Nemesis's hull, dozens of small drones shot out in all directions. Each carried specialized equipment designed by Earth's best electronic warfare experts. They began broadcasting false signal patterns, creating phantom sensor readings on Taran targeting systems. The effect was immediate. Taran weapons fire became erratic, missing the Nemesis more often than hitting as their automated targeting systems became confused by multiple contradictory readings. "It's working," Choi exclaimed. "Their hit rate has dropped by 70%. Using the momentary advantage, the Nemesis pushed forward toward Taran Prime. The beautiful blue-green planet grew larger on their view screen, its orbital defense platforms now turning their attention to the intruder. Approaching planetary defense shield. Navigation announced. The maintenance window begins in 30 seconds. Those 30 seconds felt like hours as the Nemesis absorbed more hits from the pursuing warships. A particularly violent impact sent several bridge officers flying from their stations. Officer Han picked herself up from the floor, wiping blood from a cut on her forehead. "Shields at 25%, she reported, returning to her station. "Shield window opening now," navigation called out. "Take us in," Park ordered. The Nemesis dived toward the planet's surface, slipping through the brief gap in the defensive shield grid. Orbital defense platforms fired continuously, but the drone countermeasures continued to confuse their targeting. Another explosion rocked the ship, more violent than before. "Direct hit to our port side," Engineer Kang reported, his voice barely audible over the alarms in the background. "Engine core temperature critical. The engine core is overheating. We can maintain position for 10 minutes, maybe less." "That's all we need," Park responded. "Tactical. What's our position relative to the target?" "Coming into optimal position now," Choi replied. "We're directly above the Imperial Palace complex where the communications hub is housed." The view screen showed the sprawling complex below them, a massive structure of gleaming metal and crystalline towers. At its center rose the communications spire that controlled the entire Taran military. The ship shuddered again as more hits landed. Sparks flew from a console, and emergency lighting kicked in as primary power fluctuated. "Shields at 20%, Officer Han reported, wiping more blood from her forehead. "Hull breached on decks 3 through 7. Emergency bulkheads engage." "Casualty reports coming in from all sections," Commander Joe added grimly. "Medical teams are overwhelmed." Another violent impact threw several crew members to the floor. "Shields critical," Han shouted. 10% remaining. Through the chaos, Captain Park remained focused on the mission. They had come too far to fail now. Earth was counting on them. All the conquered worlds were counting on them. She opened a channel to engineering. "Status of the quantum cascade array." "Fully charged and ready," came the response. "But Captain, we only have one shot. After activation, the system will burn out completely." Park nodded to herself. They all knew this was likely a one-way mission. "All hands," she announced shipwide. "This is the captain. Prepare for array deployment. Whatever happens next, know that your courage has given humanity its chance for survival." She turned to Science Officer Moon. "Final targeting calculations." "Target locked," Moon confirmed. "The array is aligned with the central hub. Optimal firing solution achieved." Another hit rocked the ship. A support beam crashed down on the far side of the bridge. "Shields failing," Han shouted. 5%, 3%. "The engine core can't take much more." Engineer Kane's voice was nearly drowned out by the sound of systems failing in engineering. "We're looking at a core breach in minutes." Through the view screen, Park could see more Taran ships descending toward their position. Their time had run out. Park took a deep breath, steadying herself. This was the moment everything depended on. If the array worked as designed, the entire Taran Empire would be crippled in an instant. If it failed, Humanity's last hope died with them. She met the eyes of her bridge crew, seeing in them the same determination she felt. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. "Activate the quantum cascade array," she ordered. The ship hummed with power as energy flowed into the experimental weapon. Below them, the Imperial Palace complex grew clearer on the view screen as they maintained their precarious position. The bridge of the Nemesis fell silent as Captain Park gave the order. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. There was no explosion, no visible beam of energy, just a soft hum that built gradually throughout the ship. "Quantum Cascade Array Activation Sequence initiated," reported Science Officer Song, her fingers dancing across her control panel. Her normally calm face showed tension as she monitored the experimental weapon's power levels. Unlike conventional weapons that destroyed targets with explosive force, the Quantum Cascade Array worked on an entirely different principle. Earth's scientists had discovered that the Terran Empire's military advantage came from a unique neural interface technology that connected their soldiers directly to their ships and weapon systems. This gave them faster reaction times and perfect coordination across vast distances. But like any system, it had a vulnerability. "Power levels at maximum," Engineer Kang reported from engineering, his voice trained over the comm system. "Containment field stable, but only just. We've got to release it now." "Proceed," Park ordered. A soft pulse traveled through the ship as the array discharged. For a brief moment, the view screen showed nothing unusual. Then, a barely visible ripple appeared to emanate from the Nemesis, spreading outward like a stone dropped in a still pond. "Energy release stable," reported Science Officer Song, watching the monitors with wide eyes. "The wave is expanding at predicted parameters." The wave spread across the planet, appearing visually as nothing more than a shimmer in the atmosphere. It passed through solid objects as if they weren't there, designed specifically to interact only with the unique neural technological interface the Terrans used. "Is it working?" Commander Joe asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. No one answered immediately. All eyes were fixed on the tactical display, showing the Terran ships that had been closing in on them just moments before. The first sign came when a nearby defense platform's weapons powered down mid-charge. Then, one by one, the pursuing Terran warships began to drift off course. "Their maneuvering thrusters have stopped correcting course," Tactical Officer Choi reported, his voice filled with disbelief. "Power signatures fluctuating across all enemy vessels." Captain Park stood from her command chair and stepped closer to the view screen. The Terran ships that had been attacking them seconds ago were now drifting aimlessly, internal lights flickering. Below them, the sprawling Imperial city began to change. Building lights shut off in rippling patterns. Transport vehicles stopped in their tracks. The entire planetary defense grid went dark. "It's affecting their ground systems too," Communications Officer Lee reported, listening to intercepted communications. "I'm picking up massive confusion on all Terran channels. They can't operate their equipment." The array's effect was devastating in its simplicity. It didn't destroy the Terran technology. It simply made it impossible for the Terrans to interface with it. The neural connections that allowed them to control their advanced systems were now scrambled beyond use. "Incoming transmission from one of the Terran warships," Lee announced. "Audio only." Park nodded, and the bridge speakers filled with panicked Terran voices speaking in their clicking, multi-toned language. "Translation?" Park asked. "They're saying their systems are unresponsive," Lee translated. "They can't establish neural links to any technology. They're essentially blind and paralyzed." Captain Park watched in stunned silence as the massive Imperial fleet surrounding them suddenly drifted powerless, their crews unable to operate technology that depended on the now disrupted neural interface. "It's working," whispered Kang over the comm. "It's actually working." No one spoke for several moments. The sight before them was almost unbelievable. The mighty Terran Empire, which had conquered hundreds of worlds and seemed unstoppable, was suddenly helpless. Cascade effect confirmed. Science Officer Song reported, monitoring the data streaming in. The disruption is propagating through their quantum communication network. It's affecting all connected systems. Does that mean? Joe began. Yes, Song confirmed. Based on these readings, the effect is spreading to all Terran ships and installations connected to the central hub, everywhere in the galaxy. The implications were staggering. In one stroke, they had disabled not just the ships around them, but potentially the entire Terran military machine across thousands of light years. Captain, Communications Officer Lee called out urgently. I'm receiving signals from the surface. Some appear to be from non-Terran sources. Put them through, Park ordered. The speakers filled with dozens of voices speaking different languages. As Lee filtered and translated, it became clear what was happening. Throughout the Terran capital, subjugated species who had been forced to serve the Empire were realizing that their masters had lost control. They're rising up, Joe said softly. The slaves are taking control. The tactical display updated to show new movement on the planet's surface. In the confusion, resistance forces that had been operating in secret were emerging, taking control of key facilities. Status of our ship? Park asked, turning back to the immediate situation. Not good, Engineer Kang replied honestly. The array burned out completely as designed. Engine core temperature still critical. Hull integrity compromised on multiple decks. Life support is stable for now, but we won't be making any long jumps home. Park nodded, having expected as much. Communications broadcast on all emergency frequencies. Tell any human or allied vessels in hiding that it's safe to emerge. The Terran weapons are disabled. As Lee carried out this order, Park moved to the center of the bridge. Her crew looked to her, exhaustion and wonder mixed on their faces. What happens now, Captain? Navigator Kang asked. Park looked at the drifting Terran ships, then down at the planet, where centuries of oppression were ending in a matter of minutes. Now, she said, we watch an empire fall. And then we help build something better in its place. Science Officer Song's console beeped, drawing her attention. Captain, I'm detecting the wave continuing to spread through subspace. The effect is accelerating as it hits each Terran relay station. According to these readings, it will reach Earth's sector within hours. For the first time in months, Captain Park allowed herself a genuine smile. Send a message to Earth. Tell them to be ready. Tell them we succeeded. The crew of the Nemesis watched in awe as history unfolded before them. The weapon they had risked everything to deploy hadn't fired a single destructive shot, yet it had accomplished what fleets of warships couldn't. It had brought down an empire overnight with a silent wave. The disruption from the quantum cascade array spread faster than anyone had expected. Within hours, it had reached every corner of Terran space. The effect was the same everywhere. Terran ships drifted powerless, their weapon systems unresponsive, their communications networks silent. Captain Park ordered the damaged Nemesis to remain in orbit around Terran Prime for 3 days, monitoring the situation. What they witnessed was nothing short of a revolution. Species that had been enslaved by the Terrans for generations suddenly found their masters unable to operate the technology that had kept them oppressed. The effect appears to be permanent, Science Officer Song reported after running extensive tests. The array didn't just temporarily disrupt their neural interfaces, it rewrote them. They can't adapt to it. It was a stunning revelation. The quantum cascade array hadn't just given humanity a temporary advantage. It had permanently stripped the Terran Empire of the technological edge that had made them unstoppable. We've received responses from 17 human colonies, Communications Officer Lee announced on their 4th day in orbit. They confirm that Terran forces in their sectors are completely disabled. Resistance groups are taking control of key installations everywhere. The news from Earth was equally encouraging. The moment the Terran blockade ships became unresponsive, Earth's remaining defense forces had moved in, capturing the vessels and freeing the planet. With their engines still damaged, the Nemesis accepted a TOW from a resistance ship. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. They were welcomed as heroes, their names already legendary across human space. Engineers worked around the clock to repair the Nemesis. Though badly damaged, the ship had become a symbol of humanity's resilience. Everyone agreed it needed to be restored, not just as a warship, but as a monument to what a small group of determined people could accomplish. Captain Park found herself suddenly thrust into diplomatic duties. As the commander who had struck the decisive blow against the Terran Empire, leaders from dozens of formerly subjugated species wanted to meet her, to thank her, to discuss the future. The power vacuum left by the fallen empire needed to be addressed. Without the Terran's iron grip, centuries-old conflicts between other species threatened to erupt. Earth, having led the successful resistance, now found itself in a position to help shape what would come next. "We need a new approach," Park had insisted in meeting after meeting. Not another empire, not more domination. Something collaborative. Her words resonated with many who had suffered under Terran rule. The idea of a galactic concord, a cooperative alliance of independent worlds, gained traction quickly. 2 months after the fall of the Empire, the first official meeting of the Galactic Concord was scheduled to take place on Earth. Representatives from 47 formerly subjugated worlds would attend, along with delegates from all human colonies. The day before the historic gathering, Captain Park visited the newly repaired Nemesis. Though she had been offered a promotion to Admiral, she had requested to remain the ship's captain. Some bonds went beyond rank. She walked slowly through the corridors, nodding to crew members who had stayed with the ship. Many bore scars from their mission, some visible, others not. They had lost 17 people that day, names Park would never forget. As evening approached, Park made her way to the observation deck. The large viewing windows offered a spectacular view of Earth below and the space around it. Ships from dozens of worlds were arriving for tomorrow's meeting, their designs as varied as the species that built them. She stood alone, watching the traffic, until she heard footsteps behind her. "I thought I'd find you here," said Commander Yoon, joining her at the viewport. He had recovered from his injuries, though he still walked with a slight limp. "Old habits," Park replied with a small smile. "I needed some quiet to think. About tomorrow." She nodded. About everything. How quickly it all changed. They stood in comfortable silence, watching as another delegation ship entered Earth orbit. This one was from the Lorathi, a species known for their artistic achievements before the Terran had conquered them. "I never thought we'd see this day," said Yoon, watching the elegant vessel maneuver into position. One ship, one mission, and an entire empire falls overnight. Park nodded. "We didn't just destroy an empire. We created the opportunity for something better." Below them, Earth glowed blue and green in the sunlight. In the main United Nations complex, final preparations were underway for tomorrow's historic meeting. Delegates who had already arrived were gathering for preliminary discussions. The Terrans still exist, of course, Yoon noted, but without their neural tech advantage, they're just another species now. Some of their representatives have even asked to join the Concord as equals. "And we'll accept them," Park said firmly. "That's the difference between what they built and what we're trying to build. No one subjugated, no one left out." Through the viewport, they could see shuttles moving between the larger ships and Earth. Beings from across the galaxy, who until recently had been enemies or strangers to each other, were now coming together to forge a new future. "Do you think it will work?" Yoon asked. "The Concord." Park considered this. "It won't be easy. There are old hatreds, old fears. But for the first time in centuries, there's a chance for something different." A small shuttle passed close to the Nemesis, and its occupants could be seen looking out at the famous ship. Several raised hands in salute or other gestures of respect from their cultures. "They're calling you the Empire Breaker now," Yoon said with a smile. "Psalms are being written about you on a dozen worlds." Park shook her head. "It wasn't me. It was all of us. The scientists who created the array. The resistance fighters who got us the intelligence. Every member of this crew. Still, it was your decision to take the mission. Your command that got us through." She didn't argue the point. Leadership meant taking responsibility, both for failures and successes. As the sun began to set over Earth, the two officers watched the planet's lights come on, spreading like stars across the dark side. Below them, the delegates gathered, humans standing shoulder to shoulder with species who, until recently, had been forced to serve the Taran masters. Where once stood an oppressive empire, now grew the seedlings of a new galactic community. "There's still so much to do," Park said, thinking of the challenges ahead. Rebuilding worlds the Terrans had stripped for resources, helping species reclaim their cultures and traditions, establishing fair trade and travel routes. "We'll do it together," Yoon replied. "That's the point of tomorrow, isn't it?" Park nodded, her eyes fixed on the gathering of ships from across the galaxy. In her wildest dreams, she had hoped their mission would save Earth. She had never imagined it would create the opportunity for something greater. "Sometimes," Park said quietly, "all it takes is one decisive act to change everything." As night fell completely and Earth became a gleaming jewel against the darkness, Captain Park allowed herself to feel something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope for the future. Not just for humanity, but for all the peoples gathering below to build something new from the ashes of empire. The Nemesis had done its job. Now the real work began. The end.